Hello. Thank you for joining. This is my first wisdom little discussion thing. So I actually wanted to see who would be interested in talking about this. The ethics of spiritual wellness professionals. Where is the line blurred between being a spiritual, healer, someone who has belief systems, and then the healing health Hippocratic oath part, and how do we make sure that we stay in the healing holistic space without allowing our beliefs to interact or counteract that space. All right, well, I have someone waiting to join. Darlene. Welcome, Darlene. Come on in. I'm super excited to have Darlene on. Hi,
Good
Darlene.
afternoon. Hi.
Thank you so
How
much
are
for
you?
joining me. I'm good. How are
Oh
you?
yeah. I mean, you've got an interesting discussion getting ready to happen because we're talking about
Yeah,
ethics,
yeah.
and regardless of
The
whatever
ethics of spiritual
profession we're
wellness
talking about.
professionals. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
spiritual
tell me,
wellness
where do
is
you stand on that debate?
human development, right? That's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to understand in the system. I'm in America. I live in Nevada. And that is a whole different type of wellness situation going on because they're in the entertainment capital of the world, but the public education system and the Department of Health and Human Services, and none of that kind of works. Is just totally broken. When you see somebody who would work for the
Yep.
Department of Health and Human Services that would choose to kill their children versus to, let her husband have them. And I just see all of this dysfunction going on around us. And then to know that mental health is human development and public education is about changing the behavioral health of the humans. But it really has to do with the people who are
Mm-hmm.
living in the area and what their beliefs are and what they care about. Because, some couples actually do plan for where they'll start a family because the education system is just great there and people are happy there. But then understand in the larger cities where it requires more planning because the federal government truly does fund America and their public schools simply because it is a requirement that free and appropriate public education happens. And that means in healthcare, that means across the gamut of everything that happens for the humans that live within territories. There's money allotted. It's just how that money is being allocated and who's participating and who's having those conversations when it comes to the table and how the data is discussed. I'm sorry.
So it's okay. So my question is how do you think, the spiritual wellness professionals, how do you think their code of ethics plays into what you're talking about?
Well, I'm just going to tell you that, in the universe, you have to understand that people who attempt to deceive, you just watch it all
Mm-hmm.
play out because the universe doesn't like that. Kind of understand what I'm saying? So when you see certain
Yeah,
tragedies
yeah,
happen,
just letting karma
huh?
happen, right?
Huh?
Just allowing karma to happen.
It's not even allowing it. Just know that it is the universe and it is that plan. I had three baby daddies, three, one, two, three. And the first two, one died at 58 and one died older, about 64 or whatever. Or maybe he was 67. I don't know because
Mm-hmm.
I'm 64 now. So he's older than me. He was almost 70. But it really doesn't matter. He had an opportunity to work with this kid and be a real parent. And he chose not to. But he's just not here anymore. And then the other one couldn't wait to book. And so he married someone that was his son's age. And that was just a lot of chaos. But he broke his neck. And she did not sign up to wipe ass. And she started bringing men home. And he was suffering karma. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm saying we all have to understand who we are spiritually. Everybody's not a leader. And
Mm-hmm.
people who choose to allow themselves to be put in positions to lead are challenged because they just never would have went down that road had they not been appointed, and they're not going to let you kick them or dethrone them. So the real deal is that the universe is in control right now.
Yeah.
We are living in real times of defining.
Well, you bring up a really interesting point about ego getting in the way of like a civil duty,
Right.
right?
Well, I mean,
I'm a spiritual wellness professional
mm-hmm,
practitioner, and for me, holding a code of ethics, and that's not just respect for other human beings and making sure I'm making the right karmic choices in my life, but it's
mm-hmm,
also just recognizing like what is within my scope of practice as a
mm-hmm,
spiritual wellness professional, and like making sure I draw the line between my personal spirituality,
mm-hmm.
my professional caregiving, and making sure that there's no blur there. I know that can get really hard for people, especially when they let their ego get in the way, or they think that their message, like their spiritual practice, their spiritual beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
um, is it overtakes
And I kind of
that entire
understand what you're
field.
saying. I mean, but as a people, as a people that fear the universe, let's put it like that,
Hmm.
understand that sometimes the conversations have to happen from all of the people.
Absolutely,
And if we're not having
and
the
that's one of our rights,
conversations,
right?
huh?
Being American,
You said what now?
being able to speak your mind, being able to like speak your truth is one of our rights as Americans, right?
Well, it's a liberty. I mean, when you
Hmm.
when you don't know anything else, know that most people only understand America by saying the Pledge of Allegiance, meaning that they don't go any further than that about America. And so
Man, I would hope they do. I mean,
but no,
would
they
they didn't
don't.
learn anything in junior high and
Honey,
high
they
school?
don't, because you have to look at the data and understand the outcomes. How can Nevada be on the very bottom of the list? And then we rank our schools like we rank by the states. And Nevada's on the bottom. And,
Mm.
where states that used to be on the top, like Nevada and California, they're on the bottom because they figured out how to flip the money. And so
I think
human
they're
development.
probably on the bottom more so where their society is going and what they're funneling their attention into.
Yeah, it's called
California
supplanting.
is funneling their money into
Mm.
a lot of arts programs and sports programs, and they're not, that's like totally besides the point of this discussion. But yeah, they're funneling their money into, extracurriculars more than education. And
Well,
that's
I
that's
mean,
a problem. I don't know what
And you're
Nevada's got
right,
going
because I mean, the whole educational system has to do with, I mean, the federal government has a lot of regulatory guidance. And what happened
on.
during this COVID exposure, people got to find out who was really not receiving any services. So it turns out that the people who were generating
Hmm.
the money, based on the census and how we count the people who live within the communities that are generating these dollars, when they come back, it is important that we have people who understand wellness, human development at the table. And they're
Yep.
not at the
And
table,
as a
huh?
healing professional,
Yes,
I
I
can
mean,
tell
because you
you,
can see the
I mean, there were
outcomes.
so many people entering the field. There are so many people trying to thrive in the field. There's a lot of people who take online classes and
Mm-hmm.
weekend courses, and then they start calling themselves a professional. And we bring ourselves back to where is the line in ethics? Like, what is a spiritual professional? How
Someone
much
who can
training do they
produce the
need?
work. And like I said, everybody doesn't have the
Yeah.
blessing. And that's just true. You can't expect people to follow these people off of the cliffs. And you can't have people who are not willing to allow
Yeah.
other people to come to the table. Because in America, if we are to make it, the word e pluribus unum means out of many, there will be one. We can focus on the
Hmm.
one. Right now, it's unfortunate that we cannot focus on the one, because we cannot talk about the third grader that would commit suicide versus living. What is this? And then when a black man here
Yeah.
in Nevada would hit his child so hard that that child would hemorrhage and die, and I said, where is the human development in any of this? Because it's concerning to me, because people have appointed themselves to positions of power, and they won't let you talk. And they tell you when you call them that it is above their pay grade, or they will hang up on you when you call the governor's office. But know this, as a citizen, as a human in the universe. The gift was given to you to utilize to be able to help train up people and help create systems of oversight when we're talking about accountability. When we can't measure it,
Absolutely.
girl, it's not happening. And so the
Yeah.
conversation about
Well,
what's happening,
I think you bring up
huh?
some really good points. And I'm going to just reach out to those listening. And, if anybody else has anything to add or to bring up, I want this to be an open discussion. I want the list.
Right, she's right. We have to have a plan. Somebody must have called her because that what happens when you're on the phone or you're speaking on this and then you just go dead quiet. But we do have to have a plan, and the plan must include everyone. And in the maintenance of effort, as the federal government is asking for this data,
Hello?
I'm still here.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Sorry.
somebody called
Yeah,
you.
a
I know
call
it
came in and
happens.
I canceled it, but it,
Hmm.
it shut down. So yeah, I
Yeah, it
wanted to let
does.
the
I was
listeners out
waiting
there
for you.
just give an option to, oh, yep, see, people, anybody want to join? It seems like we lost the guest, and that's fine. So she brought up some good points about during COVID, how things really shifted. I noticed that there were more wellness professionals going into the fields, and I just wanted to, see how many of you guys are listening in to other healers. How much training is required, do you think, to be a spiritual wellness professional? Where's the line drawn between being, a spiritual practitioner, someone who has a belief system and is using their belief system to assist others, whether it be inspiring them or whether it be healing them or whether it be giving them information to improve their life? Where is that line drawn in then having your training, making sure that you're following the Hippocratic Oath, that you're getting certifications? Like, how important are those regulations, those expectations for optimal care? I just want to hear what you guys think, other spiritual wellness professionals. I'm a massage therapist. There is a rigorous training that goes into being able to legally put your hands on someone, to be able to provide medical level care. And I've also learned Reiki, which you learn this technique, which is a powerful, incredible technique. But you can go into a weekend class and come out with a certification and immediately get started on your healing practice. Where should we be regulating, if anybody even thinks about it? I don't know how many people think about this topic, to be honest with you. I was just curious what you guys out there thought. I know for me, if I go to a healer, I would hope that they understand energetic ethics, that if you wake up in the morning and you have an argument with your significant other and you walk out of that argument still fuming, that you wouldn't go and put your hands on a client feeling those emotions. Maybe that's just me. I know that if I walked into a session with a healer and they were still fuming from some kind of fight. I've been to massage therapists. Has anybody been to a massage therapist? They go in there and they're like, I would like a massage. And the massage therapist just complains about, you know, politics or their life or their problems. And you're just kind of hoping to relax. And suddenly this relaxing moment with your massage therapist has become this stressful, I don't know, stressful talk session where you're kind of like, what am I doing here with this person? Um, where is that line? Why does it seem like we aren't giving education enough to the very many modalities of spiritual wellness professionals? Why are we not giving more information on how to, I guess, support their practice? to be able to provide the best care for their clients. I don't know if I'm the only person who worries about this stuff. I do my best to provide the most ethical care. I learn all about the body. I learn what's within my scope of practice. I learn about contraindications, which are, illnesses or different, ailments, different surgical, whatever, that you can't do certain massage techniques or certain aromatherapy techniques or certain, even crystal therapy techniques in certain situations with certain medications or certain, illnesses. And I'm just wondering, should we be considering the ethics in all of these new modalities that there's really not any kind of regulation? I mean, if you wanted to be an ordained minister, you just apply online. There's all these Udemy classes. You finish a Udemy course, suddenly you're a life coach. How strict should we be? How much should we consider when looking into all of this? I feel like it's a highly unregulated field that leaves a huge margin of error, especially when we have a lot of healers who might be recommending treatments that in goodwill, they're recommending treatments. They're recommending different, maybe stretches, maybe meditations. And they want the best for their customer. They want the best for their client. They wish well for them. But maybe they don't have enough education to know when their advice, when their guidance is actually, maybe it contraindicates their medication. And maybe somebody's like, oh, you should totally take, turmeric. You should take turmeric and grapefruit. That is going to be so good for helping you detoxify your liver. Oh my gosh, turmeric, grapefruit lowers the inflammation, detoxifies your liver. I got my Reiki practitioner telling me that. Oh man, I would love to detoxify my liver. That sounds awesome. I go home and I take that stuff. But did you guys know that grapefruit actually is a contraindication to like a bunch of medications, even aspirin? Grapefruit, there's an enzyme in grapefruit that can actually counteract your medications. That blows my mind that there's not, that we have these nutritionalists, and I'm sure a handful, if not a lot of them, know that. But there might be people who just enjoy naturopathic medicine, and they learn some, a couple of tips here, a couple of, facts over here. Oh, grapefruit is really good for detoxification. I'm going to recommend that. But how would they know that it's going to counteract medication? So I think as a community, I don't know how many of you guys out there are wellness professionals, but I feel like we as a community should be really banding together and ensuring the health and safety of our clients through, establishing a standard of care. And I know there's so many new modalities. There's especially so many spiritual modalities that I think are great. As a shamanic practitioner, I love what I do. And my clients are so grateful for the work. So many people benefit from it. I even talk about it on my podcast, like super, super beneficial. People love it. But I also understand that I have to follow a code of ethics. If I am having a moody day, if I'm feeling really sad, if I have a bunch of stress going on, and I have a client, I know for me to protect the health and safety of my client, I call and cancel. If me meditating and clearing my energy and grounding myself, and I still feel like I can't give my client 150%, I'm not going to that session. I'm going to call them. I'm going to tell them I'm sick. I'm going to cancel because I care more about their care than I do about my finances. And I can tell you, I've met a lot of healers, a lot of practitioners, a lot of people who don't recognize the boundary. They're not recognizing what is healthy, what is safe for my client, because the money, surviving, thriving, feeling like they're doing well in their career is so much more important to them than the safety of the person they're caring for. And I know in massage school, as I said earlier, I took the Hippocratic Oath. I took that very, very seriously because it's the same oath that doctors take, that I will harm no one. I have an understanding that the body heals itself. Therefore, any healing I do, I'm not healing anybody. I'm holding space for their body to feel safe enough to heal itself. I am just a facilitator of their healing that keeps my ego in check, and it keeps my ethics straight so that I know what I'm allowed to do. I know what is ethical to do. And I know when to draw the line. Like, if my client is asking me to do something that I could technically do, like, hey, give me a psychic reading. Could I technically give someone a psychic reading? Yeah, I could technically give someone a psychic reading. I'd probably be pretty good at it too. But have I been trained? No. If I happen to say some kind of information that this person is like, they're really relying on me, they're really trusting me to give them answers. If I can't confidently give them answers, I really shouldn't. Just because somebody will pay me to do it doesn't mean I should. I mean, if that were the case, I'd be doing all kinds of things, but it's not ethical. And I'm not saying all spiritual people do that, especially like I'm in that bucket too. But I have met practitioners that I have to question it. That person, they're not in the best frame of mind right now. Why are they still working? They're not doing so great on their own level. So I don't know if there's anybody listening who wants to chime in, who wants to throw in their opinion about this particular topic. But I have felt very strongly about finding people who are passionate about this, who want to protect the clients, who also want to protect the integrity of the professional field. If you can go to a one-day workshop and get a license to do something on another human being, whether or not it is proven, whether, if it's just faith healing, the point is a lot of clients don't know the difference. They come to you believing that you've had this training, all this information. If nobody can master anything in a day, there is not a single person on this planet that can master something in a day. You can be naturally great at something. You could even be a prodigy. But just because you're a prodigy of healing doesn't mean that you can go and just heal whomever. You still have to learn about the body. You still have to learn about different, diseases and medications, and not because you're inefficient, but because it's important to know just in case. Wouldn't you rather be safe than sorry? I personally would, especially liability wise. If I wasn't an ethical practitioner, and I didn't have liability insurance, I would be so screwed. I think any of us would, especially if you ended up actually hurting someone just because you didn't know. Oops, sorry. Sorry, I gave you a heart attack. Didn't know that was, sorry, I gave you that grapefruit and counteracted your medication. Oopsies. It doesn't work in a court. Doesn't work on the ethical level either. Like, I could never work again if I knew I hurt somebody. What do you guys think? For those of you who hopped on, this is my first talk. I haven't done too many on here. This is literally my first open mic, right? And I'm just super curious what you guys are thinking about it. I'd love to know what you guys have to throw in for opinions in regards to this topic. What I've had to say. I'll keep talking about it, but feel free to hop on at any point, you guys. But yeah, I don't know. I think that setting up some kind of regulation board for these modalities would probably be a good thing. I also think that there's a weird line that's been crossed in a lot of areas for the ethics of like having a spiritual practice and allowing your personal beliefs to ooze into your professional field. Now, it's one thing to be like, hey, I'm a shaman. And literally, shamans, like, they interact with spiritual guides. So I always tell clients, new and old, like, hey, listen, this is how I do the healing work that I do. Sometimes it's angels, sometimes it's aliens. You know, I don't like to judge who comes into sessions. I get ancestors, I get fairies, we got animals and all kinds of strange things coming in to work with you. So I don't judge. But, you know, when does that start to interfere with my client's care? And some people are very strongly just one belief system. They might get a client that counteracts that belief system. And does that impede the care and the healing that that client is receiving? If their caregiver has a different belief system and is strongly invested in that belief system, does that impede the actual wellness care of their client? You know, that seems to be something I worry about when going and getting healings. That's something I think about when I go into a session. My clients, I always am telling them, please take what resonates with you, leave what doesn't. These are my personal beliefs when I'm explaining how things function and work, and my visions or my information that I get and the healings that I do. But I've also been to healers who can't tell me what they're doing. They can't explain their process. They're just like, so I sit there and I say, okay, healing light, turn on. And suddenly healing light comes through me and I give it to my client. And that's how my practice works. And I've heard that like so many times. And I'm like, that's really cool. Where's the healing light coming from? And they're like, well, it's from God. I was like, how do you know? Because I said so. Okay, so you don't think that something might lie to you? Like humans lie all the time. Like what if it's lying? Like did it actually say so, or are you just like jumping to conclusions? Have you actually like interacted with this thing that's giving you light? No, no, but I trust it. I'm a person of God. Okay. If that's your full belief system, I'm sure it works. And I'm not saying what they're doing is any less viable than what I'm doing. But how do we know? Is that an ethical compromise? Should we be compromising the wellness and the safety of the people we are treating if we can't figure that out? And how could we as a community protect the greater scale of clients? Like maybe you're ethical, but maybe the guy next door isn't. That's still a concern for me as a wellness professional, that there might be clients out there having bad experiences that might actually be walking out of sessions worse, that might be getting injured emotionally, mentally, spiritually in sessions because of somebody who lacks ethical boundaries in their professional field. And that concerns me. And yeah, there's a board for massage, and yeah, there's a board for acupuncture, and yeah, there's a board for, physical therapy, and yeah, there's a board for chiropractic, and yeah, there's a board for mental health and counseling, but there's no board for life coaches. There's no board for Reiki practitioners. There's no board for shaman people. There's no board for angelic healers. There's no board for psychics. There's no board for tarot readers. There's no board. What do we do for those people? And how do we all know that they're practicing ethics? Do they even know what ethics are? Could you sit down those people and be like, hey, what is your code of ethics that you follow every day that you do your healing practice? Could they actually outline their code of ethics? Could they articulate it? Could they follow it? Maybe they could say they could, but could they like in their own self, be honest and follow it? I can say that there have been times in my career, luckily not recently, but there have been times in the past where maybe I was more strapped for cash and I had a bad day with my husband, and I was like, oh man, I had such a bad day. And I went to work and worked on my client anyway. I can tell you every time that happened, I was in those sessions giving massages and just going, I made a mistake. I can feel how not good I am right now, mentally, emotionally. I made a mistake. Of course, I learned. As you can hear, I had, a lot of regret. But I'm sure that there's people who don't. I'm sure that there's people who go into sessions in a bad mood. They let off some steam in that session. Maybe they even complain to their clients about the session. They just kind of, oh, I had this fight with my husband, blah, blah, blah. But that still affects your care. Your client isn't your therapist. You shouldn't be breaking that boundary. That's an ethical boundary too. Is it appropriate to talk to your client about your personal life? No. That's something I'm not allowed to do as a massage therapist. That I think it should be the same for spiritual wellness professionals. It's one thing to be like, oh yeah, hey, how are you doing? How's your husband? My husband's great. How is your husband? Oh, my husband's great. My kids are doing great. My wife's doing great. Whatever it is, like, yeah, family's good. Last weekend we went to blah blah blah. That's a whole nother story to literally unpack onto your client. There's an ethical boundary there. You don't unpack your crap onto your client. Super, super inappropriate, super unprofessional. And I've had care providers do that for me. Where my session where I'm supposed to feel less stressed, where I'm supposed to feel safer, hasn't been safer. It didn't feel safe because my therapist or my healer or my psychic was too busy processing their own emotional baggage for their own life that they couldn't give me the attention and care I deserved, that I paid them for. And I felt cheated because I wasn't being cared for, that I became the person who had to care for them because they're unpacking their baggage and I had to hold space for them. There's nothing more annoying than having to pay someone to then be their therapist. I can tell you there's more healers out there like that than I would ever want to admit, but there are. I've had them. There may have even been times where I was that therapist early in my career, 10 plus years ago. I'm sure of it. I didn't understand the ethical boundaries back then. But that's what I'm talking about. And then, I really want to open up the spiritual wellness because there's so many areas in these fields. The lack of regulation, the boundary between spiritual and health, and making sure that just because we have differing belief systems, that we should also be able to honor the space of our clients, like the ethics there, the ethics of being able to have the education, have the certification and the training to provide the best, safest care for our client. These are the areas that I think are, I don't know, is there anybody out there who has anything to throw in? I would love to hear what you guys have to say. I don't know if you guys are enjoying this or not. If you're enjoying this, please follow, like, and subscribe for more. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. But yeah, I would love you guys to hop in if you have anything to say about this. I think I'm pretty well tapped out on what to say about this topic. So unless somebody else has something to say, give a good countdown, you guys. All right. Well, thanks for listening. This is like a podcast, I guess. It was kind of neat having people hop on. And for that guest that did hop on earlier, if she's still here, thank you so much for hopping on, giving your opinion. And I totally agree that there needs to be more regulation for, I mean, you were talking about schools in general, and I think you were going down the path of like the different state regulations and the different state expectations. And I did want to say that I appreciate you coming on and talking about that. And you brought up a couple of current events that were just really heavy, about kids and stuff. And even though that's not necessarily what I was trying to come on with, I really appreciate you sharing and being a part of the discussion. So if there, last call, but thanks you guys so much for listening into the, like, my topic of ethics. And I'll just wrap it up once again for anybody who was taking notes or actually listening through the whole thing. I did end up talking about the ethics between, like, the line between spiritual and wellness, making sure that our spirituality and our difference between beliefs doesn't, negatively impact our care, negatively impact the care of our clients, and talking about the different regulations, the different licenses, and the different certifications that should be required to enter the field and to take care of people, because our first and only goal when being spiritual wellness professionals is making sure that we do not harm people, that we are assisting them, that we are providing them, facilitating their healing space. So, to talk about a lot of different ethical concerns for those that hopped on here late in the game. I'm sorry. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate. I see that there's 28 of you out there. If you enjoyed this, I do have a podcast, and you are always welcome to subscribe or follow me on here. This is my first show, so thank you so much for tuning in and listening. And I appreciate the guest that did come on, give her opinion. I appreciate that. You guys feel free to message me on here or to check out my link if you have any questions about the topic today. If you just weren't comfortable talking openly, you can always message me, like, on the side, and I would be more than happy to DM you on any of my social stuff. But I'm going to be closing out for today, and I just appreciate you guys tuning in, and hope you guys like the talk. All right, bye now.